And we are live, ladies and gentlemen. I want to welcome everybody to the Hopeful Romantic Podcast. I'm your boy Dropping Dimes, and this is MyaVibez. How you doing,
Hello,
MyaVibez?
hello. I'm doing fantastic. I love this topic.
This is great. Yeah, we got a good one today. Today we're going to be talking about finances in terms of being in a relationship. The conversations that you should have, some conversations that people do have. We're going to be talking about prenuptial agreements. And I got a really interesting question in my inbox that I thought was fascinating. And I wanted to share it with the audience. And I'm hoping that we can get it out there so that everybody could chime in and give us your opinion. I know in the past, we've had a lot of people really have opinions on this topic. So I want to start off with just the intro. All right. Today we're going to talk about finance within the context of a relationship. We're going to talk about different theories on how to approach it. MyaVibez has her way of approaching it. I have mine, my belief system on how people should handle finances. What's acceptable? What kind of conversations should be had? But not from a financial standpoint, but not from like an emotional standpoint with your partner. We want to make sure that it's clear and people are able to kind of the type of discussion you should have. So if you're in a new relationship and you have somebody in your life and what to look for, are there differences in the way we spend money, the way we think about money, the way we value money? These are all topics that need to be had. What's your opinion? What do you think off the bat when you have finances within the context of a relationship? What do you think?
I love the concept of a prenuptial agreement. Okay. I also
Well, we're going to
love,
get to that. We're going to get to prenuptial. I want to save that where we have there's going to be an entire segment on it. So if you just want to touch on it, that's cool. But let's
yeah.
say that because there's a lot of meat and potatoes
So,
there.
so I think that, okay, so my personal feeling is this. I like it when folks separate their finances. She has hers, he has his, and they have a mutual pot in the middle, right? Because I think that if you're making your own money, you should be able to manage it, and you should both be having conversations about how to spend it. Okay. So once you understand each of your spending habits, then you should both be entitled to, have a decent conversation, have communications about, look, these are our life goals, this is what we're going to do for the future, but I want to have, and I want to see women especially have their own ability to manage their finances. So I think that in the grand scheme of things, especially as we are now women, evolving and, really making a presence in the workforce. I just think that if you work hard for your money, you should be able to manage it, have a little spending money to do the things that you personally want to do, but also have an open line of communication with your partner to make sure that your goals are always aligned.
But I don't have an opinion. I'm going to clarify that.
Mm.
I don't have an opinion on how people should spend their money or what agreements they should come to. I'm a firm believer that every household is like a snowflake or like a fingerprint.
Yeah,
Whatever
I mean,
works
it
within the four
depends on.
walls, whatever works within the four walls of
Mhm.
your house is your business. So where I could have how I perceive money should be treated, and I look into another household and I see that the man is staying at home, she does all the breadwinning, but their house is thriving, they're successful, cool, that's what works. If I see a house where they go 50-50, and they put it, he keeps his money, she keeps her money, they go in a pot, more power to you, that's what works for you. If I see another household where they have strictly the bills, they put it all in a pot and they divide it up and they're savings and vacation money. However you choose to do it, the only way that's a wrong way is if your family is not moving forward and if your family is not progressing. If your family is progressing, what happens within these four walls? See, that's part of the problem I find. I find that magazines, the internet, women have a lot of opinions, and I'm not going to be with no man. That's cool. That's what works for you.
Right.
But I know too many people that are highly successful in relationships where within the four walls, the male takes a non-traditional role. And guess what? Their family is thriving because, to me, see, it leads into the masculine, feminine energy conversation. To me, the most masculine thing you could do as a man is what's good for your family. It's not about providing, not providing. There's that. It's doing what's best for your family. If you have to put your ego to the side, stay home and do that part of it, guess what? You are as masculine as a man who works 9 to 5 in construction. Because It's not about that. It's about what you do for your family. So when I talk finances and I hear these conversations, I say to myself, I don't think these are I think we should talk more about the conversation being had. You two being in agreement.
Yeah.
You two making sure you understand each other, how you value money.
Right.
So, like for me, for instance, thank God I'm with who I'm with, because to me, money's never meant anything.
Right. We were
yeah. Love, art, good times, family. That's what my priority's always been. I've always loved that part of it. But now I'm with somebody that understands money, and they say you can have them both. And they teach, right? Yeah. So it's important to have that balance, to learn from each other, feed off of each other. See, the worst thing that can happen, and a lot of reasons why these marriages end, is because one person needs the safety and security. They need to have that nest egg. They need to have that fun. And the other one's looking at them like, don't worry, it's going to be all right.
Yeah.
And you cannot live like that.
That's why I always say, I think you're right. You're making an absolutely great point that it really is what works for that particular family, right? There is no cookie cutter way to run a household, but if him being the breadwinner works or her being the breadwinner works, then by all means do it. I think what's critical and crucial is the open lines of communication, making sure that you both have a budget, a plan, a future, that you kind of are mitigating those moments of like maybe overspending on one person's behalf, open communication and a total plan, a budget, because I'm sure those households, right, even though he may be staying at home, they still have to have a budget. They still have to have some sort of structure in place that says, okay, look, this is what our ultimate goal is. Let's just say it's we're going to take vacations once a week for 3 weeks or a month, right? We're gonna, when we retire, we're gonna travel the world. As long as you have aligned yourselves, right? Whether it's a verbal contract or just a verbal agreement or written contract between two people, and it doesn't have to be a prenup. As long as you have outlined all of the things and all of the goals that you want to get to, right? And you're saying to yourself, okay, listen, I know you like to spend a little bit on fishing equipment, so let's kind of work on that a little bit. Maybe for this month, you don't spend all that money. You cut your budget to half so that we can do these other things. As long as that line of communication is constantly going, I think you're absolutely right. Whatever works for you is what works for you, and it doesn't mean that it's going to work for everybody.
Yeah, I agree. What do you call it? So you have situations, right? And this kind of leads us into one of our topics today. I don't think people are having the hard conversation.
I agree.
Early enough in the situation.
Yes, I totally agree with
that.
They
get to the point where they're going to get married, or where they start having these discussions. And I feel like that's too late because now emotions are involved.
Right.
And a lot of times people will be like, I'm in love. And they will put their thoughts on money on the back burner because of that love.
Right.
Because of that feeling. And the problem is you cannot do that. Because whatever you suppress today will show itself later on in the relationship.
Yeah. You think youth is thinking that way? You think the younger people, the newer generation is thinking How do you think they're thinking about
I
finances?
think they're thinking about it more so than anybody else did in the past. No, differently. I want to say more so. I think differently. In the
Because
past,
think about it, our grandmothers thought about it, but they thought about it in that sense of, I better marry well before, so that I can have a good life, right? So it was definitely in their mind. So I'm curious what you think. How do you think they're thinking about it today, these kids?
I think it's more so self-centered nowadays, right? Where back in the day they were like, let's marry well so I could have a good family, we could move forward, we could have a good life.
Right.
We could have a good life. Nowadays, a lot of people are approaching each other and they're saying, I got to this level. I need somebody helping me get to this level. I need somebody to help me to get to this level. Mm-hmm. Right? The couples that succeed look at each other and say, how can we get to this level?
Yeah.
Right? So right off the rip, a lot of times what you'll find is that when you hear that word I, and because I have dreams, I have aspirations, I have,
yeah,
I need to back away. Because right off the rip, you're not looking at it as a team. And what that shows you is when things get tough, how are you going to approach this issue? Are you going to approach it as we have an issue or I have an issue? Right. Now, I'm a believer that when a man loves a woman, and again, this is my old part being open. When a man loves a woman, there's no mountain he won't climb, no river he won't cross. And a lot of times, what I find is that in situations where economics get tough, economic situation gets tough, finance gets tough, women don't always, it's about the amount of money you bring in, right? But it's also about they want to know that you're worrying just as much as they are. Right. In a lot of marriages, they find a problem when you're telling him, hey, we can't buy this house because we don't make enough money. And he looks at you and goes, oh, it's going to be all right. And he chooses to only work one job.
Right.
Now, as opposed to you say, I really want to buy this house. I want this house. He looks at you and says, I work this job. You know what? I'm going to kill myself working a second job. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to work those 10 hours that I sleep. I'm going to work 5 of them for you. I feel like in those situations, you almost have to give, a lot of times women will give the credit. You know what I'm saying? And I've actually seen this. I actually saw this with a couple that I was talking to. And what they said was, this is her, I'm paraphrasing, but what they told me was, they were looking to buy a house. They were coming up short, on the money, their credit, they were getting together. But the money part of it was a little short. He went to her and said, I'm going to get a second job. He started driving Uber. Mm. He was already, he was the plumber at a library. He was the maintenance man at a library. And he started driving Uber on the side. So now he's working about 60 hours a week. And they're getting close. And he sees that she's still chippy. He goes out and says, okay, cool. Look, I have these couple hours of sleep. Well, I can manage. He goes out and gets himself another smaller part-time job where he could do it like every other weekend, doing like random work for people. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. She then approaches him and says, no, that's too much. We could work it. We could make it. And what she said was, once I realized that it meant as much to him as it meant to me, I backed off. Right. Because at the end of the day, his health and what I feel about him means more than these material things, So I thought that was a beautiful approach because he showed her, I love you and I'm willing to go the extra mile for you. And I see what you see. I feel the desperation you feel. That's what he communicated. I feel on her side, she looked at him and said, okay, I need you to make the sacrifice. I need to see how much you really want this. And once she saw that, it almost superseded the bigger dream. Almost, right. It was almost like, oh, you do love me kind of thing. It was weird. Mm-hmm. But yeah, you see it all the time. People will argue about finances, and once they start getting into that fight, you see the couples that are a team and align with each other and really bond over the situation, they make it through.
They make it through and they don't inflate the process. Like I've seen that where I know couples that have kind of gone through through this little episode of maybe they were trying to buy a house, maybe they were trying to have a baby, whatever it was that they were trying to plan. And all of a sudden those arguments became over the top mountain high problems because they weren't aligned. They weren't just, having a good conversation about how to proceed. They started to attack themselves, each other, and it became a big fiasco. But yes, I 100% have seen it, and and do believe that when couples are solid and strong enough, and the big thing is communicate and set a plan for themselves, they can certainly get through it.
The other part of it is, and that leads us to another part of the conversation. We're going to talk about, let me just get to it for you. Prenuptial agreements. What are your thoughts on prenuptials?
I love them. I really do. Especially in certain scenarios. Okay, here's a scenario. I own a home, he owns a home. He has children, I have children. Okay, we want to come together and set a life together. Let's talk about a prenup, because we each are coming into this relationship knowing that we have a legacy to take care of. So let's put it in writing. No big deal about it. That says this belongs to you, this belongs to you. Right? And
Okay.
then we can set up a little account that says, okay, this is our travel fund. This is the money that we're going to use together to travel the world when we retire. Maybe we want to leave the homes to the kids. That to me doesn't. I personally would never tap into somebody else's assets knowing that they have children, especially if they have multiple children, right? Nor would I allow anybody to tap into mine, knowing that eventually everything that I've built would go to my son.
But let's be clear. Let's be clear. Prenuptials aren't for middle class people for the most part. They're not for like middle income people. They usually come like this. I make 150 million, or I make 10 million before I met you. We get together. We have four kids.
Job, you have
we get together. We have 4 kids. We get divorced. You want 8 million. That's how prenuptials come. So you're going to tell me that you meet a man, right, that has built a fortune. You married him. You make his life better. You create a home for him. You have children with him, a child for child support and all that stuff. And when he leaves, he can walk away with all that money and leave you where you stood.
That prenup is going to have certain stipulations that take care of me too. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, if he's making a significant amount of money and we're going to go into, because a prenup is a contract, right? It's an agreement between two people, right? Prenuptials, before we get married, we are going to sit there and have a conversation. Okay. So let's have a decent conversation that says, if you're making, if you have, over $1 million of income per year, and now we are going to get together, okay, you're coming into this with the understanding that I don't have that, right? And part of the love and part of the, the coming together is understanding and trying to enhance the other's life, right? So whether it's during the relationship, if you want to put a stipulation in there that says, okay, you got to give me a $5,000 allowance so that I can keep up with the lifestyle, right? I've got nails and hair and this and that and the other, and I don't want to have to beg you for money all the time. So, for the sake of those reasons, I would like to have a $5,000, agreement that you're going to give me per month. Okay. And again, it's to support the lifestyle. The other thing is, you want to include in there things like, look, if we break up and I'm accustomed to a $5,000 lifestyle, it would be damaging to my psyche. Okay. That would be a mental abuse if I had to go back to that level. So I think, knowing what you're getting into, a prenuptial agreement is 100%, I think, necessary in those scenarios where somebody, has worked hard for their money and they have a ton of cash, but they also have to understand you're bringing this person into your life. Okay. So that prenup needs to be fair. That prenup needs to say, okay, look, I'm going to give you $5,000 during the time that we're together so that you can pay for essentials, right? I don't want you to feel like you are obligated to be here and stuff like that. And then once you leave, I agree. Because if you're making millions of dollars, I'm sure, a couple of $5,000 isn't going to be anything, per month for this person who now has agreed and open-heartedly signed this contract to leave your assets alone. Well, take care of them on the way out too, right?
That's easy to say, right? But like, okay, so for instance, I saw a young man. I was watching some show. I forgot what it was. He gets with this girl, and the girl says to him, he basically, and it kind of bleeds into the conversation we had the other day where he was talking about what do you bring to the table? Like, what are you adding to my life? Like, tell me, whatever. So he presents her with a prenuptial agreement.
Mm-hmm.
She gets upset because basically he's planning for it to fail. That's what she's saying. You're planning for it to fail.
Oh.
And he looks at her and he goes, no, I need you to sign it because you said that when we met that you could take me to the next level. So what I'm promising you with this prenuptial is that I'm going to sign. Everything I have up till today is mine. You can have everything that I get from here to the next level.
Okay, that's fair.
Because you got to keep your promise.
I think that's fair.
That's what you said. And I find that when you think about things like that, yeah, they make sense. It's true. But I think there's an emotional component that a lot of people don't take into account.
I got to tell you, I have to tell you the most dramatic prenup story I have ever witnessed. Okay. So the girl had a flighty kind of spoiled mentality. All right. And throughout the relationship, he just gave her stuff. He spoiled her at every level. She would call crying for money. He would send her money, the whole thing. The day of the wedding. Oh my God. No, I'm sorry. The day before the wedding. He calls her from the lawyer's office. And he goes, listen, come meet me here because I need you to sign some documents. So she gets there, but they never had a conversation about it. She gets there and the lawyer has documentation and, places documentation in front of her. And now she's forced to quickly read an agreement, okay, and sign it because her wedding is the next day. So either you sign this document or you face the embarrassment of having to tell your guest that you canceled the wedding, because you refused to sign it. You know what I mean? And when I tell you, I witnessed the meltdown of a lifetime. And to some slight degree, my heart went out to her because I was like, that is so unfair to just spring it on somebody. You know what I mean? These are conversations that, like I said, you want to have them pretty much from day one. Listen, are you a prenup kind of person? Hi, how are you? My name is Ruby. Are you a prenup kind of person? You know what I mean? And not have to wait until the day before the wedding. And she made so many valid points. It was like, don't you trust me? Why didn't you tell me ahead of the game? Why is this? I mean, do you not want to get married because all of a sudden you're putting this document last minute in front of my face? Like, so my heart went out to her because I was like, oh my God, how do you stand in front of basically the next day and profess your love to this person after the night before he literally just sprung it on her. And from his perspective, and it could have been, wedding jitters and stuff, but she was asking for tons and tons and tons of money. Like, it was like every single day she was calling for something, and it didn't necessarily have to do with the wedding. It was like the closer the wedding got, the more access she had to the money, so the more entitled she felt and wanted to pull it out of the pot, right? So she was like, I decided yesterday that I want to start my own business and I need $30,000. This was a real conversation. And he was like, we're having a wedding tomorrow. Like, but he sent it to her because that was his future wife. Then it was something else. Then she wanted an expensive pair of shoes. Then she wanted another, a second dress for the wedding. Then she wanted, but it was almost like, she was a super kind girl. And then as the wedding started to get closer, she was just like, oh man, I'm one more step closer to that money. And then he whammed her with, no, you're not.
We have some comments. Cancel the wedding. Ceci says, cancel the wedding. That is a low down, sneaky thing to do. Do you want to marry him? Michelle says, absolutely agree with Ceci Bell. Jones, I would call the wedding off.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the thing. She showed him who she was. She showed him who she was.
They both did, to be
honest. And he chose to ignore it. Yeah, he chose to ignore it. She was asking for it. And at some point, he was trying to see if he maybe had an expectation that she wasn't that person, that he thought maybe he could look past it, maybe he could work past it. And then one day he was like, no, this is exactly who she is.
She's going
to suck me dry. She's not bringing anything.
Yeah. And she had an, oh, wow moment. I'm about to be rich. Right? And he was like, uh-oh moment. This girl's about to make me bankrupt. And that clash created that the day before. When I tell you, I overheard a conversation, inadvertently, where she was wailing, he doesn't trust me. This is not going to work. All this other stuff. Why did he have to wait for the last minute? So
that is true. See, that's true. That is not a conversation. I'll be honest with you. When I hear things like that, he had a third party in his ear, whether it was family, whatever. That's pretty clear. Yeah. But yeah, his issue was he saved it for the last minute. How are you having a conversation about finances with somebody at the last minute? You know what I mean? That goes to show you don't know each other. If it's at the last minute, you don't know each other.
Exactly.
So you probably shouldn't be getting married anyway. You know what I mean? Had this conversation, had the prenup situation happened months
ago,
yeah, okay, maybe. But you're going to marry somebody you don't know yet? Like, you don't know her position on finances? You don't know that she doesn't want to sign it? That's kind of odd right there, number one. Yes. Number two, what do you call it? Again, the question is, you see, when you have that, like I said before, when you have that conversation, he could have looked at her and said, okay, cool. Again, and it's usually men with a lot of money that will ask the question, what are you adding to my life, unfortunately? If they're looking at you as a business transaction, right, he's going to ask that question. And in those cases,
something. I got to give you this. I got to tell you this. This girl is a badass advertising and marketing promotion person. Like when I tell you, she at the drop of a hat and did so much for his business that that's the reason why that I was like, oh my gosh, my heart went out to her, because I was like, here you are. Yeah, you asked for a lot of money, but you are literally proving yourself day in and day out, and all the stuff that's out there, websites and all this thing. You have really put yourself out there. That's your voice. I said, and then he does this to you. Really sad situation, really bad. So that's why I said,
Michelle says maybe it was his way of calling off the wedding.
I thought about that too, to be very honest with you, and I think that's 100%. I was like, maybe he was hoping that she would, say, you know what, forget about this. I don't want to do it anymore. Maybe he was having cold feet. And as a matter of fact, on the day of the wedding, he did kind of have cold feet. He mentioned it to some of the people that he knew and loved. And I was just like, oh my gosh. The girls, that were around the situation, even though that was happening, in a different section, we were just like crying on the inside with her, because we were like, what a violation of trust. What a violation of trust. Like, you do not spring that on somebody the day before a wedding where you have to wear makeup and be happy and look beautiful and all these things. It was just so cruel to me, So,
But my question is
Prenuptial
this. My
definitely was
question is this. I'm going to play devil's advocate. My question is this. She signs it. What changes?
nothing really.
So why not sign it?
I mean,
What changes?
she
Unless
signed, this is what
unless
she did. She
she
signed
had
it
a
and
hidden
then
agenda.
threw it in the garbage.
That's my question. Unless she had a hidden agenda, what changes? You still love me? I love you. Okay, cool. Because now he could reverse it and say, well, are you planning for us to fail? What are you worried about?
Well, she signed it. She did sign it. I mean, obviously, she loved the guy. To be honest with you, I think at that point, she loved him more than he loved her, because she did. She cried. She, had those feelings of distrust and all this other stuff. But at the end of the day, and really at the last hour, she signed the document, threw in a drawer, and they lived, happily ever after. But it's just, and I should disclosure and disclaimer here, they didn't live happily ever after. In a matter of, I think, less than 5 years, they were separated and going for divorce. And it was because they just did not know each other, right? And I think it's, you just said it. They didn't know each other. They didn't know about the prenup. They didn't know a slew of other things about one another, right? So conversations, man, and transparency is all I can tell you. When it comes to a prenup,
yeah, they lack communication. They definitely lack communication, which is, we could use that, we throw that term around, but that kind of is the core of 99% of problems that marriages, relationships have, communication. You know what I mean? It always boils down to, I always say that communication is the immune system that fights off everything that can attack your relationship. You know what I mean? That's a dime for everybody. It's a communication. That's what it is.
Say it
Yeah.
again.
No, it's communication is the immune system that fights off anything that can attack your relationship. It's literally what fights it off. Because if you have good communication, there's really nothing you can't get to and treat before it becomes a problem.
Yeah.
It's only after it becomes a problem that communication is sometimes not enough, because now you separate, you hurt.
Yeah, I did a piece of it, because you have to know how to communicate, right? Because even in when you're fighting with your partner about finances and things like this, like prenup, you really need to know how to say the right words and come from a place of us and not I or you, to be accusatory and all of those things. So I think that, the way you communicate, there should be like a science or a class about it. It's like, don't go over there and say, you made me sign a prenuptial agreement. No, we signed a prenuptial agreement.
Well, that's a point that one of our followers says he didn't give her the time to review it and get her own lawyer so she can protect herself. He was only thinking of himself, which kind of goes to your point, where he approached it as an I'm protecting myself.
Yes.
What about us? What about what's going on here? Yeah, I understand, but sometimes money's not enough. Just like love is not enough, sometimes money's not enough. You know what I mean? So I hear that on that. There are pre-classes on communication. Yeah, there are classes on communication. Absolutely. That's the basis.
Can we get some of those on can somebody put that on our chat, on our comments? Classes that people can take? Anybody who's watching this and needs a little class on communication with their
couple. You can contact Dropping Dimes. Reach out to me and I can help you directly if you need it. I'll drop my link down below. Dropping Dimes. If you need help with communication with your partner, hit me up. I got you. All right. The next part of it is I have a question from my inbox.
Oh, I love this.
There's a question from the inbox. And this is one of those situations where initially I had one thought, and the deeper I got into the conversation, the more I realized there was layers to this. I know some of our followers, they have opinions on this. So I'm going to lay it out. It says, Dear Dropping Dimes, I went out with my buddies and we had a great time. I mean, a really great time. No infidelity, nothing, I didn't step out or anything. But I spent an absorbent amount of money. I spent a lot of cash. The next day, I came home. And I don't know how my girl knew, but she kind of had the sense of it. And she got up and asked me, hey, can we have money for I need money for a grill that we're going to buy because my family's coming and I want to have a barbecue. He had to look at her and say, I don't have it. I got to make some moves to get it. Let me get up and move. And she got upset because she said, well, I know you had money. What happened to all that money? And they got into a big argument. So he reached out and he said, am I wrong? Or did I mess up? Or what are your thoughts on the situation with these type of finances? So
I don't think he's wrong. I don't think he's wrong. Again, it all depends on the agreement that you guys have together, right? If you're doing everything right, okay, and just once in a blue moon, the guy goes out and he blows a little bit of money. I don't know that I would say $500 is reasonable.
Yeah, a little bit of money. He used the words absorbent amount of money.
Okay, I mean, all right. Let's just say $500 is a reasonable. You buy a TV. You could buy a lot of things with $500, right? So I don't know that $500 is out with your buddies is a number that you should be spending. What the hell did you spend money on? You know what I mean? Like, what the hell?
He said, the question was like, we went bar hopping and we popped a lot of bottles. We did visit some strip joints.
You don't got no business popping bottles if you got a family.
See, now that's
okay,
good.
All I'm saying.
Go ahead.
All I'm saying is, listen, go out, do your thing, okay? But $500 was a little too much to go out.
No. You see, you cannot dance on the argument. You cannot dance on this argument.
No.
Now, was the $500 too much, or was it that he has the right to spend the money?
No.
Which one is it?
I mean, he 100% has the right to spend his own money. I mean, you made it. You have the right to spend it. Now, but again, it has to do with the agreement that you have with your partner. Because if there was a set agreement that says, listen, we're only going to spend $250 a month, for entertainment and for our expenditures, our play money. And he went out and exceeded that amount, then I would see why she would be upset. But to be upset if the guy never goes out, he never does anything wrong. He didn't cheat on you. He didn't, he just lived a little bit. Then I think you're being a little too, too extreme. Like, let the guy live a little bit. Now that he spent the $500, the next conversation is, okay, next time you go out, the budget is $250, $300. Okay.
But see, that's contradicting the fact that he can do whatever he wants with his money.
He can do whatever he wants with his money, but obviously you can't ignore the component that she got mad. So that's
what I'm saying, though. That's what I'm saying.
Compromise.
You have to land on one side of the argument.
My landing spot is that he had every right to spend his money.
So then the dollar figure is irrelevant.
At this point, if he's not doing it all the time, then no. When you initially said that to me, I was like, he didn't do anything wrong. The $500 is a little extreme. He should probably budget himself a little bit better. But if he never does this before and he went out and spent $500 to have a little fun with his boys, other than that, he's a good provider. He's a good person. He's a good, dad and stuff like that. Leave the guy alone. Let him go freaking spend his money. Who gives a shit? You understand what I'm saying? But let's not ignore a woman's feelings. We can't, because I'm a woman, and I know that if my husband goes or my boyfriend goes out and spends $500, I'd be like, if you had that money to spend, more power to you. But, don't forget, our goals and our plans. I mean, is this something that you're going to do often? Because if it is, then we need to budget for it. Because $500 with your buddies, every month can start to add up to stuff that we could do, together. Not to say that you can't spend it, because who am I? I always say, who am I to dictate what another human being can do with the hard-earned money they make? You know what I mean? I wasn't there, if your supervisor was yelling at you. I wasn't there, if your client dumped you. I wasn't there, in a lot of situations that, make your money. So who am I to dictate? Like, I think that is so wrong. Now, if your children do it, that's a whole different story. You brought those kids into the world. So guess what? If your daughter says to you, why did you spend $500? You need to answer to that.
Okay, well, and we have a couple of comments. If the bill says, if the bills are paid and he does it once in a while, he's entitled. She's mad because he couldn't floss for her family. Michelle says, I don't think he's wrong, and I don't believe she even wanted the grill. This is a good man that lived a little. He needs a break.
Yeah,
I agree with all that. Listen,
I agree with all of that.
Now here's the point that I'm going to make. Right? And here's how, when I read things like this or when I talk to people, I go one layer deeper. Because on the surface, I agree with you guys 100%. Right? He's entitled. He has the right. He works hard. Go burn a little bit. Here's where something is deeper. He posed the question. The minute he posed the question, he knew he somehow, some way fucked up.
Well,
okay?
Of course,
Because the man that is confident in what he did, hey man, it happened. I don't ever move on. No big deal. The minute he sent dropping dimes a message asking him for advice, saying, hey man, I need to know da. Brother.
No.
You knew you slipped. No. This is a man telling you. You're not going to man-slam me. This is a man telling you what it is. He knew he kind of fucked up. He might be went 100, 200 over budget.
He knows.
He knows he went, I might have fucked up just a little bit. He knows that. You know what I'm saying? So right then and there, if he knows that, nobody knows this woman better than him. Right? So what he's saying is, yeah, oh man, I fucked up. Okay, see.
But I did it.
No, here's the thing. He has the right to. We're not discussing whether he has the right to. He has the right to. You know what I'm saying? He can do it. I could drive a car with my feet. It doesn't mean I'm supposed to. You know what I'm saying? What you're allowed to do and what you should do are two different things.
I'm going to tell you this, okay? A lot of times we women will go out and splurge on a designer bag and all this other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And we come home with it and we don't see anything wrong, right? We go out and spend $2,000 on a nice bag that we wanted. And it's like, or we expect them to spend it, right? And then the one little time that this guy, because I would be curious to know, if he spent $500 on himself, what kind of luxuries does she have in her closet? You know what I mean? Like, now if she's
according to your theory, it's whatever she could save up for.
Yeah, I'm saying, let's just say he's the provider, right? Let's say he's the provider. And he's providing her everything that she wants. And then that one time he goes out and spends $500, okay? Now, if you're spending $500, which you're entitled to do because you're, making your own money, but your girl's wearing Payless shoes, you better
it's her money.
Yourself, boy.
She chose to spend her money the way she chose. You see, we cannot dance. If we're going to take a stance, we have to take a stance. If she has her money, then she should be spending it accordingly. See, we can't do that.
If he's the provider, okay.
In this case, he's not. In this case, apparently, they go 50-50 on everything.
Okay. But let's just hypothetically say that this guy's the provider. If he's the provider of the home, okay, and he goes out and spends $500, which he can do, but he's not taking care of the immediate needs and providing her with the luxuries, to equal $500, then that's a good reason for a girl to get, a little bit upset. But if they're both making their own money, You manage yours, let him manage his, let him go out and have a little, a bit of a good time. I'm always of the mentality
I'm
that
going to
it's
ask you a
good and
question.
healthy.
I need
It's
to ask
good
you a
and
question
healthy.
on this topic, right? Again, I'm not going to mansplain you. You need to tell me as a woman whether I'm off or I'm on on this.
Go ahead.
Whenever I talk about safety and security, right, I've always assumed that women, they think about the big picture. They think many steps ahead, usually, of the man that they're with. Okay, and I don't mean that the man is not on it. He's not on his game. He's not thinking. It's just in the way we think about things. They think the worst possible scenario moving forward. Let's be prepared for our household because they put their family first. The nurturing then puts their family first, right? So when I hear the story, I'm like, she's looking at it as, yeah, you have the right to spend that, but damn, we could have used those 500 for something good, something better, something more important, something more. Because when she has the 500, a lot of women, what they'll do, and I always say this, and again, I could be wrong, it's trickle down economics when it comes to women. You give a woman $1 million with children and a husband. She figures out how to trickle down that $1 million to make her kids and her husband happy and fulfill a happy family. You give a man $1 million and he says, okay, I got to start a bit. I got to blow something up for like a legacy for the future. And it goes outward. The money goes outward. When women get things in possession because of their nurture estate, it goes inward to the family. When men get it, it goes outward.
It depends. Okay. And I'm going to do a segment about this. A woman's thought process, okay, changes a little bit over time. If you're home with young elementary and maybe even high school kids, okay, you have that mentality, right? Now your kids leave the house and you're kind of by yourself, okay? And then now it's a whole different story. I get $1 million. Okay, let's just say the kids are all married and out of college and the whole thing, right? And I get $1 million. I want stability. I want security. I want to invest this in a home that I never have to pay for again, right?
Right.
And then as you start to progress, now your elderly parents need your help, okay? And now your attention shifts to that. It's still, I can afford these things for myself, but I'm also going to set a little bit of money aside in case something happens to my parents, or maybe, I could take them out for dinner and stuff like that. Then there are different stages. So it really depends on what stage you are in your life, I think, to have certain ways of thinking. Yes, when I was, married and was buying a home and doing, building my life, I had that mentality that trickled down. If I got a little bit of money, it all went, to my family and to enhance my life. That was at that stage. Here at this stage, I'm at, all the money that I get now is for retirement. I don't want to know nothing about nothing. Don't mix our finances. Don't give me that prenup. We'll sign it. It's a different kind of mentality that you get into as you get older, as you start to see that you're not as agile, you're not as fast, you're not this. So at this point in my life, for example, I'm not looking to somebody else to fulfill my needs. If they want to do it, by all means, I'll be happy, right? But I'm not going to turn around and say, again, because we have, kids who are in this age, and I ultimately want to do for my son what our dad did for us. You get what I'm saying? Take some worries away from you for the future, so that you can then focus your attention on making your children's life better. You get what I'm saying? So it changes over time, and it depends on where you are in life to have certain mentalities. I mean, older women don't necessarily feel like they have to rely on a man. Security at this age is, give me peace of mind. Come into my life, have a good time with me. Give me peace of mind. Don't make me worry that, you're off, gallivanting with somebody else. If you can do that for me.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's easy to agree with. right? But when I look at this topic, the question at hand, what I say is that there's layers to this question.
There's probably some that we
The
don't know.
surface level answer is yes, he has the right. It's okay. You shouldn't feel guilty for spending that money, especially if you're a good provider. You don't do it all. That's the surface level answer. I agree with that part. The lesser subtle, the more subtle answer is, you know this woman. You know what makes her tick.
You
knew you were fucking up or you were slipping when you were doing it because you know her. This is not a response that you get from a woman today.
Yeah, it's something that's...
You're married to her. You're with her. This is a response you know you were going to get. You understand this woman better than anybody. You know what I'm saying? This is not somebody I'm dating that I'm getting to know.
Right.
This is a wife that I married. This is a woman that I'm with long term. I know that me spending this money is gonna bother her.
Yeah.
So now I have to make a choice. Is it better to ask for forgiveness? Right? Or is it better to ask for permission?
It's better
I
to
guess in this case, they
budget.
chose, I'd rather ask for permission. I'd rather ask for forgiveness, which, hey, whatever, get it, your money.
Right.
Go another layer deeper. You posed the question. You posed the question. The minute you pose the question,
naughty boy,
you're asking because you knew, yeah, I kind of, I could have made a better decision.
Or did he get guilted into it? Because let me tell you something. I know my girlfriends will be like, you and that. And heart bottom so bad that initially he went into it thinking, I didn't do anything wrong. And by the time they're done,
see, I don't believe that. I believe you could harp on me and make me feel bad. But I'm not going to go and ask a third party. I'll feel bad to you. I'm not going to ask a third party and be like, hey,
permission to do it again.
Hey, what do you think? What do you think? I'm not asking another man what he thinks. If I don't think if I don't need that confirmation. Like, hey, was that wrong? You were right. No, you're okay. Oh, okay. Because something in you said, I might have fucked up, man. I don't know, But the bottom line is, I think that, he has to have a conversation. We'll let her know, hey, look, man, this is my way to vent, to get away.
Yeah.
It's just a one-time thing. It's not a big deal. And I don't think it was. I think whatever excuse she came up with on why she needed the money, it should scream to him, there's a deeper level of communication we need to have.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, she's talking about whatever? So now he can turn to her and be like, why didn't you tell me about the grill? Why was this so important? Why? I'm here for you. Exactly. Why aren't you letting me know? Whatever. Because it could easily become an argument.
Before I went out, I would have given you half the money and not.
Yeah, like why didn't we talk about this? Oh, because now you could divide and see whether she's being petty or she was legit. Right. Damn, I didn't get to see you. I was at our kids' football practice. I didn't get a chance. You can hear her out as well. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And I think that's where it comes in. Yeah, finances are at the core of any healthy relationship. But more so than finances is the communication.
100%.
When you are committed to someone and you want to develop a relationship, find out what money means to them. What was it to them as children? Are they coming from a position of struggle, want, need?
Yes.
Where it provides security? See, money is thrown around as a reason to get married. What people aren't looking at it as, money is the old avenue of providing safety and security. It's the old way to do that. Mm-hmm. If you provided for a woman back in the day, it wasn't money. It was, oh, you mean my life is good. I'm secure. I can raise children. I can now be protected as far as the home is concerned.
That hasn't changed, Mike.
That could all happen, right? Mm-hmm. And what you notice is, nowadays that women are making their own money and having their own levels of success, men have to evolve because the new age woman is no longer looking at just money. She's still looking at money because she's still establishing a resume on whether she's going to, link with you. But what she's doing is she's not just looking at the money now. Now you also have to provide and open up the other avenues.
Peace of mind.
Trust.
Peace.
Right, peace.
Especially in this internet era where guys can literally open their computer and go out on dates, with anybody.
Here's the thing.
I think it's more so.
We need to kill that narrative, though. We need to kill that narrative. The internet is not the reason, right? It's like blaming the bar on the reason the alcoholic fell off the wagon. Right. There was already a problem. It's the easy way for the problem to show its head and rear its ugly head, because now the access is easier. But a healthy relationship, a man that's happy, he could have 100 naked women on his page, and he's not going there.
Right.
It's the man that's slightly unhappy, that's slightly this, that whatever. All of a sudden, that opens up a little gap where he can go through that door. You know what I mean? You don't look at a drunk alcoholic and say, you know what, that damn bar, we got to burn that bar because you're going to have a drink. No, we address the core problem. Address the core problem, and this internet, all this other stuff is not the issue. Address the core problem, and it goes back to what our basis is: communication. It's the immune system that fights off any issues, any problems that attack your relationship. And with that, we're coming up on an hour.
Yay!
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, I want to say thank you very much. We do have some comments. Let's go through some comments. We got a super fan, Michelle. What's up, Meech? Maybe not in this case. He may have messed up on something else, and she's making him pay out of anger. It has nothing to do with him spending money. It absolutely could. That could be true. Maybe he isn't the greatest husband he claims to be. My point is, we don't have enough information. Women just don't spaz out. We accumulate our anger and let him slide. I'm going to have to say nah, because I've seen women just spaz out. I've seen women that they already had that attitude, and it didn't come from him. It came from a position where they wanted and they needed so much when they were younger that the even slightest hint that it might be coming up again and they might have to need or want again, they snap. So I don't know. I'm going to have to disagree on that. Besides, international dating is much easier for men than it is for women. Absolutely. American men are at a premium right now. So women from outside of the country, they have this perceived balance that men want, but it's not really balanced. What they do is they emphasize the nurture, and they de-emphasize the go-getter, successful woman part of it. Where I feel like you can go out and you can get both. You can get the most of both worlds. There's plenty of women out there that are go-getters, workers, make money, and they still have that nurture inside of them where they want to give, provide, help you, push, and they give you all that. You know what I mean? Like, I know too many of them. I know too many of them that offer both. You know what I mean? You will meet lazy women that say you could only be one. That's not true. It's simply not true. We know too many women that have both of them inside. That they're super women nurtured. We call them super women. I call them women. Yeah. I call them women. Those are women to me. You know what I mean? And those women are a premium. What do you call it? Besides, internet dating is much easier. Yeah, absolutely. I'm an internet. Yeah, we got you. Definitely, internet dating is definitely, it is. See, the problem is the minute a man's ego is struck. See, women will break up with you months in advance, right? And they'll think about ways to like start checking out mentally and breaking up with you. And then the day they break up with you, men are blindsided, supposedly. Oh shit, I didn't see that coming, right? Men leave you that their ego can't take anymore. See what I'm saying? So like, we'll fight through all the bullshit. The day you hurt us and bruise our ego, like, well, we're not enough. We don't feel man enough. We're not enough. We're not whatever. F you. That's why we run out. We sleep whatever we can for a couple of weeks. And then a couple of weeks later, because we never addressed the pain, we're sitting there crying in our pillow, wondering what happened, how we lost such a good woman. You know what I mean? And then we attack the internet like you would have believed. But that's a story for another day. With that, ladies and gentlemen, I want to say thank you very much. This is another episode of the Hopeful Romantic Podcast, and it has been brought to you by Shallow River to Deep Ocean, a man's guide to understanding his woman by first understanding himself. Gentlemen, ladies, this is a guide. This is part one of a guide to help you understand your woman, okay? You are literally dealing with her on the surface. You really don't understand how deep her emotions and her thoughts go. You don't really understand how deep her dream goes. You don't understand how much she really worries and thinks about the family. And you know what? Neither do I. But you know what I do know? I do know that through some conversations, through some research, I've been able to find the consistencies amongst women and what they do think and what they are asking for from you. And that they're basically telling you everything you need to know. If you want to go from good to great, and you're a good man and you deserve it, read this book. I promise it will help you. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, I will drop the link down below for Shallow River to Deep Ocean by yours truly, Michael Navarrete. And with that, we are out of here. Have a good one, everybody.